Hi, Namaste to you everyone. I am Professor Venkataramu VR, Assistant Professor of English at Government First Grade College, Gudivandi. Friends, let us know the contents of this video session. In this session, we are going to define what a play is, the types of plays, the setting of the stage and scene of the play, the bishop's candlesticks. Later, we are going to know the placing of the text in its context. At the end, we have some multiple choice questions. Please do watch the video till the end. Friends, now let us know what is a play. The play is a literary form of writing for theatre which narrates a story with elements of conflicts, tensions, and actions through dialogues of characters. For dramatic significance, it is divided into acts and scenes. The writers present their feelings, emotions, and ideas through their characters and make them speak. A play is a piece of writing, particular literature, that can be seen at a theatre or on a television or heard on the radio. Plays often show the conversation between people. Friends, now let us know the types of plays. The plays can broadly be classified into four types. They are tragedies, comedies, histories, romances. I'll add some more types of plays for your reference. They are domestic drama, then tragic comedy, melodrama, symbolic about English literature. Friends, now let us know the types of plays in short. The tragedy. The end is sad because of bad luck, because of the hero is not perfect, or because of the gods. We see that in these tragedies, there is a focus on a tragic hero whose downfall is brought about through weaknesses or misfortune of some kind. This kind of a play ends with the death of the central character, but also involves the death of several other characters. Now let's move on to the comedies. When we think of comedies, the end is usually happy. Some things in this sort of play are funny. It makes us laugh. This kind of play involves humor and often confusion, disguise, mistaken identity, etc. Unlike our modern idea of comedy, some comedies can be quite dark, but the main thing is that the end is happy and there are no deaths at the end. Now let's move to the histories. This kind of play is based on historical events and characters, often on kings or important figures from Roman history. These plays often have tragic elements too. Now let's come to the romances. These are some of Shakespeare's later plays, sometimes called last plays, and often involve magical worlds and happenings, mysterious events and moral lessons contained within a happy ending. A few plays, however, do not fit easily into these categories. These are plays that fall somewhere between tragedy and comedy and contain dark, unsettling elements, but which end happily insofar as no one dies. They are known as problem comedies or dark comedies. Now let's come to the domestic drama. The play is about normal life, family and friends. Now come to the tragic comedy. This play is both a tragedy and a comedy. Now let's come to the melodrama. This sort of play often has a happy ending. In it, there is a villain, a bad person, but the hero and often the heroine wins. The emotions are really powerful. Now let's move to the symbolic play. The sort of the play is about ideas. The people in this play are not so important. The present play that we are going to study in this video, the Bishop's Candlesticks, is the best example for symbolic play. We learn in this play that the idea of charity and also how to transform the life of a convict. In that sense, the Bishop's Candlesticks is the best example for the symbolic play. Friends, now let us understand some of the difficulty words mentioned in this play, the Bishop's Candlesticks. Friends, now let us understand the setting of the stage and also the scene of the play, The Bishop's Candlesticks. The time is said to be the beginning of the 19th century. The place of the play that takes place is France, about 30 miles from Paris. First, now let's come to the Bishop's Candlesticks. The play in its context and also the background of the play. The Bishop's Candlesticks is based on the theme that love and kindness can change a man rather than violence. The play is about a convict who breaks into the bishop's house and is clothed and warm. The benevolence of the bishops somewhat softens the convict, but when he sees his silver candlesticks, he steals them. He was captured and brought back. He expects to go back to jail, but the bishop informs the police that they are a gift. This one kind act of the bishop reforms the convict to believe in the Spirit of God that dwells in the heart of every human being. The play is set in the house of a bishop on a cold winter night. On the mantelpiece are the two handsome candlesticks. Quite after the play is the plain furnishings of the room. Mary, the maidservant, is busy in stirring a pot of soup on the fire, and Parsume, the bishop's sister, is laying the table and keeping an eye on soup being cooked by Mary. Parsume is worried as it is already past 11 o'clock and her brother has not yet returned. She wonders whether her brother, the bishop, could be at the late hour. She asked Mary if there was any message. Mary tells her that the bishop has gone to see her ailing mother. This angers Parsume, who feels that the most people take advantage of her simple brother, who is always eager to help the poor and the needy. While the table is being laid for dinner, Parsume asks Mary if she has placed salt cellars on the table. Mary tells her that the bishop has sold the salt cellars to pay the house rent of Mary Gringoire, who was being troubled by the bailiff. Parsome curses the old lady for taking advantage of her brother, lamenting that the bishop, who has already sold many of his belongings to help others, would sell everything. The bishop enters the cottage and informs Mary that her mother was better. He gives her his comfort and asks her to run home since it is very cold. Parsome, who has been crying, gets very angry with the bishop. When Mary leaves, she tells him that the people lie to him to get help from him. The bishop regrets that there is so much suffering in this world and so little that he could do to show her anger and resentment over his selling his salt cellars. Parsome taunts the bishop that one day he would sell the candlesticks also. The bishop assures her that he would never sell the candlesticks, as they are a token from his dying mother and encompass her memory. However, in the next breath, he feels bad to sell such a store by them. As it is midnight, Parsome goes off to bed and the bishop sits down to read. Suddenly, a runaway convict with a long knife in his hand enters the room. He threatens to kill the bishop if he tries to call out and demands food. The bishop greets him lovingly and assures him that he shall have food. He calls Parsome to open the cupboard. Parsome is scared to see the convict, but the bishop reassures her and takes the keys of the cupboard from her. Parsome is scared to see the convict, but the bishop reassures her and takes the keys of the cupboard from her. He then serves the convict cold pie, wine and bread. After having his fill, the convict feels relaxed. He tells the bishop that he has lived in hell for 10 years. He narrates the circumstances under which he was imprisoned. Once upon a time, he too had a loving wife and a home. His wife, Janity, was ill and dying, and there was no food. He could not get work, so he stole to buy food for her. He was caught and sentenced to 10 years in prison. The jailer told him that his wife died. That night, he was sentenced. The convict recounts his suffering in the prison. The jailer took away him a number. One day, they forget to chain him and he escaped. Then, he has been wandering from pillar to post without food and shelter. The bishop is moved upon hearing this story. He consoles the convict and tells him that although he has suffered a great deal, there is hope for him. He then asks the convict to sleep in his house and assures him that no harm would come to him. Saying this, the bishop goes inside to bring him a coverlet. The convict happens to see the candlesticks on the mantelpiece. He takes them down and finds that they are quite heavy and made of pure silver. On his return, the bishop finds the candlesticks in the convict's hand. He tells the convict that they are a parting gift from his mother. He bids the convict good night and goes to bed and uses them to start a new life. He does think of the candlesticks in his pocket and escapes. Parsome wakes upon hearing the noise and rushes downstairs. She finds the candlesticks missing and raises a hue and cries. She wakes up the bishop and informs him about the theft. The bishop regrets the loss of the candlesticks but refuses to call in the police as he does not want the convict to be sent back to the prison to suffer once again. Just then, a sergeant enters the cottage with a convict led by the constables. He tells the bishop about the circumstances under which he caught the thief. He had been moving along this road suspiciously. On searching him, they found the candlesticks on his person. The sergeant remembered that they belonged to the bishop, so he arrested the thief and brought him there. The bishop tells the sergeant that the gentleman he had brought was his good friend, and he had been given the candlesticks to him that night. The sergeant finds it difficult to accept the explanation. However, he releases the prisoner and goes out. The convict is now a changed man. He is overwhelmed with the remorse. He begs forgiveness from the bishop, who has made him feel that he was a man again and not a beast. He asks his permission to go to Paris. The bishop gives him the candlesticks so that they might help him and tells them about a safe route to Paris. As parting advice, he tells the convict to remember that the body was the temple of the living God. The convict assures him that he will remember that all his life. I am sure you find it most useful. Now let's move on to the multiple choice questions. Thank you for watching this video till the end.